and welcome to another vlog. I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend. Anyway, this week's theme is schizophrenia, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about some common treatments for schizophrenia, and I'd also like to debunk some common myths about schizophrenia. So, schizophrenia is a serious brain disorder that affects an individual's thoughts, emotions, and behavior, and it can be divided into three main types of symptoms. There's positive symptoms, which are related to psychosis, negative symptoms, which are related to changes in emotion and behavior, and then cognitive symptoms, which are related to changes in memory and thinking. And for this reason, schizophrenia can be very debilitating for many individuals who live with the condition. Now, fortunately, there are many treatments for schizophrenia. These include things like medication, counseling, and coordinated specialty care. But today I'd like to focus mainly on the psychosocial treatments for the disorder. So, when we talk about psychosocial treatments, we're talking about any treatments that are aimed at improving an individual's skills and relationships. A lot of people, when they think about schizophrenia, they picture delusions and hallucinations, but the disorder actually goes a lot deeper than that and can affect all aspects of a person's life, including their ability to think and to process information and even to make decisions. And this really affects the ability of some people with schizophrenia to live on their own. And the psychosocial treatments are really aimed at alleviating some of these symptoms. So it really is a form of rehabilitation. And there's many different types of psychosocial treatments. So there's things like life skills building. So that's learning the skills required to manage your home and your finances and to live on your own. Vocational training, so learning the skills that you need to get employment. Group therapy, so receiving support in a group setting, and then family counseling, receiving support from your friends and family, and the list of possible forms of psychosocial treatment goes on and on and on. Really, any treatment that's aimed at improving the individual's ability to function and interact with the world around them would probably count as psychosocial treatment. And there's many other treatments that could benefit people with schizophrenia, but I really wanted to talk about this one because it's not really something that you think about uh, oftentimes when you think about treating mental illness. But there are a lot of people with mental illnesses such as schizophrenia that do benefit from some of these treatments. Now, as with any health condition, treatments are going to vary from person to person. What works as a treatment for one individual may not help another individual. Most people are going to receive a combination of different treatments that's going to vary based on their symptoms and diagnosis. And the same is true with schizophrenia and really all mental illnesses. Now, unfortunately, as with many other mental illnesses, as is often the case, there is a lot of stigma surrounding schizophrenia and there's a lot of misinformation out there, which is a problem. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to kind of address some common myths about schizophrenia. And I've chosen three common myths that I'd like to address briefly and talk about briefly. So the first myth is that people with schizophrenia are outcasts, but the fact is schizophrenia affects ordinary people. Many people, when they think about schizophrenia, they think of individuals who are social outcasts who hallucinate and talk to themselves and don't realize they're sick. But not everyone with schizophrenia exhibits all of those symptoms. For starters, schizophrenia is episodic in nature. So people with schizophrenia only um, are living with psychotic symptoms when they're having an episode of psychosis, which is not all the time. Some people with schizophrenia will have, only one episode of psychosis in their life, and others may have many, but they're not always experiencing those symptoms. Furthermore, not everyone with schizophrenia talks to themselves, and although it is true that 50% of people with schizophrenia don't realize that they're sick, the other 50% do. And oftentimes, when someone doesn't realize that they're sick with schizophrenia, it's just because they haven't been diagnosed yet. But that's not to say that their friends and family haven't noticed a change in their behavior. And oftentimes, It's their friends and family who notice those changes of behavior and are able to get their loved one help. The second myth is that people with schizophrenia are violent and dangerous, but the fact is people with schizophrenia are neither violent or dangerous. You'll hear on the news sometimes stories of people with schizophrenia who will commit violent acts while they're experiencing an episode of psychosis. But this is very rare, and normally when this happens, there's other underlying factors such as addiction and anger issues that have, in addition to the schizophrenia, that have caused that person to act that way. It's not usually just their schizophrenia that has led them um, to commit those acts. And the fact is, anyone can commit a violent act, whether they have schizophrenia or not. And they do. All you have to do is turn on the news, and you'll see that this is, you know, very true. People commit violent acts all the time, and most of them don't have a mental illness. Um, so really the point is your chances of being attacked by someone with schizophrenia are no higher than your chances of being attacked by someone who does not have schizophrenia. Anyone could harm you, regardless of what their mental state is. And oftentimes with schizophrenia, because it is such a debilitating condition, when someone with schizophrenia has an episode of psychosis, they're just unable to function at all because the condition is really that debilitating. And then the final myth is that people with schizophrenia are sheltered. But the fact is, people with schizophrenia live ordinary lives. A lot of people, when they think about schizophrenia, they think that people with schizophrenia are sheltered hermits who, just stay home and don't interact with people, with other people, and that they, can't live ordinary lives. But this couldn't be farther from the truth. The fact is, people with schizophrenia do live ordinary lives, as do people with all mental illnesses. The thing about schizophrenia is, like I mentioned, there are a lot of treatments for the disorder, and the disorder is very treatable. And with proper treatment and lifestyle changes, people with schizophrenia can live ordinary lives, and they do. They can do all the same things that ordinary people do. They can live on their own and go to school and have a job and start a family and do all the things that you and me want to do. And they do. There's a lot of people with schizophrenia out there who, just live their lives the way they choose. Because once the symptoms of the disorder are under control, that is very possible to do. The point that I'm getting at is just because you have schizophrenia or another mental illness doesn't mean that you're incapable of living a productive or meaningful life. Matter of fact, the opposite is true. You can live a very good life. Anyway, I'm going to include some links in the description below to articles where you can learn some more about the treatments for schizophrenia and learn some more about some common myths about schizophrenia, which I encourage everyone to check out because, I think it's very important for us to understand mental illness so that we can eliminate the stigma. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be releasing a video in which I talk about what schizophrenia is, what its characteristics are, and how it's managed. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see that video, and also be sure to follow Squeaky Bell Productions on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And as always, if you enjoyed today's vlog and you want to see more videos like this one, then please support me on Patreon. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you on Thursday.